In every marriage, there's a silence no one talks about. A silence that grows between two people who once promised the world to each other and now can't remember why they stopped holding hands. Evelyn Hart used to believe love could fix everything, that forgiveness was the language of strong women, and that loyalty could outlast betrayal if you just loved hard enough. But one night, under the quiet hum of a kitchen light, she learned that silence has a sound. It sounds like a phone call cut short, like a secret whispered behind closed doors, like the moment you realize the person beside you isn't really beside you anymore. This is not just a story about betrayal. It's a story about what happens after when forgiveness becomes a battlefield, and truth, the only weapon left. This is Unforgiven, a story about pain, redemption, and the love that refused to die even when everything else did. Portland, where houses still remember what it means to be quiet. Evelyn Hart stands in her kitchen at 11:43 p.m., staring at the faint blue glow leaking from her husband's study. The city outside hums like a lullaby, gone wrong too many lights, too many people pretending they're not lonely. She's not sure what woke her, the silence or the sound of his voice. Ryan Blake has the kind of voice that was built to lie beautifully, calm, measured, almost loving the tone of a man who could apologize while planning his next sin. Evelyn stands behind the half-open door and listens. "No, not yet," Ryan whispers. She doesn't know. "Just give me a few more days. I'll move the funds once the account clears. You'll have your share, I promise." There's a pause, a woman's laugh, soft, close. Not the kind of laugh you hear from a business partner. Her chest tightens not from surprise, but from confirmation. The kind that doesn't shatter you, just slowly drains the air out of your lungs until breathing becomes a ritual instead of a reflex. Ryan turns, still on the call, pacing. "Listen, Monica. I said I'll handle it. The house, the mortgage, all of it. She never checks. Trust me, Monica." The name drips like poison into Evelyn's bloodstream. She steps back, quiet as the ache in her ribs, and retreats down the hall. The walls of the house seem to shift with her, listening. On the living room mantel, a photo of their wedding day looks like it's watching too. Two people framed in sunlight, unaware of how fragile forever is. She pours herself a glass of water. It tastes metallic, like regret. In the reflection of the window, her face looks older than 32, the kind of tired that sleep can't fix. For a long time, Evelyn believed she'd built a simple, good life. Morning coffee, weekend markets, the scent of lavender on clean sheets. Now, All of it feels like set dressing for a play she didn't realize she was in. Her phone lights up. A message from Uncle Charles. You still awake? Could use your signature on some documents tomorrow. Just routine stuff. Routine. That word again. Everything deceitful in her life hides behind that word. She types back. Of course. 10 a.m. Perfect. Sleep well. Kiddo. She doesn't. The next morning, sunlight pretends to be gentle. Evelyn moves through it like someone walking through smoke. Ryan sits at the breakfast table, tie half done, scrolling through emails. You were up late, she says. Casual. Yeah. Client call. You know how it is. She nods. She knows exactly how it is. He kisses her cheek, the smell of his cologne cedar, and distance. When he leaves, she stands in the doorway until the sound of his car fades, then locks the door and exhales like someone who's been holding a scream all night. She walks to the bedroom, opens his drawer, 2 phones, one black, one silver. The silver one buzzes once before she can even pick it up. Monica Price calling. Evelyn's hand trembles. She lets it ring out, screen glowing like an accusation. That's when she notices it. A thin envelope tucked under the cufflinks. Inside a deed to a property in his name, not theirs. And a payment receipt from Hart's & Group's business account, her company. He didn't just cheat on her. He stole from her something inside her, something soft, trusting, dies quietly in that moment, in its place. Something else begins to grow. Later that day, she meets Uncle Charles at the Hartson office. He's smooth, polished, the kind of man who hides danger behind charm. You look tired, Evie, he says. You working too hard. Just life catching up, she replies. He smiles a politician's smile. You know, after your parents passed, this company survived because of you and me. Family's all we've got. Family. The word stings. He slides a folder across the table. Routine financials. Just sign here. She takes the pen, scanning the papers, but something feels off. The phrasing, the dates. Her eyes catch a line, transfer of managerial authority. Interim Charles Quinn. Her pulse spikes. She looks up. What exactly am I signing? Uncle, he chuckles. Legal language. Just protection for the company while you recover. You've seemed distant lately. Everyone's noticed. Recover. Another word that means surrender. She sets the pen down. I'll have Ethan review it. His eyes flicker just once. Ethan, the assistant, you trust him more than me. Evelyn holds his gaze. Right now, I don't trust anyone. The room cools by a few degrees. He forces a smile. Suit yourself, sweetheart. As she walks out, her phone vibrates. Unknown number. She hesitates, then answers. Miss Hart. The voice is older, warm, measured. This is Samuel Trent. I used to work for your father. She freezes. Mr. Trent. My father passed away years ago. I know. But before he did, he left something for you. Something I think you were never meant to forget. Evelyn's breath catches. What do you mean? It's better we don't discuss this over the phone. Meet me tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll text you the address. The line clicks. Silence again, her old companion. She looks at her reflection in the glass door, faint, fractured, uncertain. Behind her, the company logo reads Hearts and Group, built on trust. She almost laughs. That night, she finds an old photo of her parents in the study, her father's handwriting on the back, for Evelyn when truth feels dangerous. Remember where the foundation lies. She flips the frame and notices something strange, the backboard slightly loose. A thin folded note tucked inside. One word written in her father's sharp ink. 4, and an arrow pointing down. Her eyes trace the direction down to the wooden floor beneath the altar cabinet. A single tile looks newer, glossier. Evelyn kneels, pries it up with trembling fingers. Beneath it, a small blue metal box. Inside, an old cell number scribbled on yellow paper. Samuel Trent. Her father's handwriting again. She sinks to the floor, clutching the note like proof that she isn't losing her mind, that somewhere, buried under all this betrayal, the truth is still breathing. And for the first time in months, Evelyn Hart stops being afraid. She starts taking notes. In every story about betrayal, there's a moment when the victim becomes the investigator, when silence becomes evidence, and when love, stripped of illusion, becomes clarity. For Evelyn, that moment has just begun. The next evening, the city is quiet in that strange, deceptive way, like it's holding its breath. Evelyn drives across the river to an old residential block she's never seen before. The address Mr. Trent gave her leads to a narrow building covered in ivy. Its porch light flickering weakly against the dark. She knocks once. The door opens halfway, and a man in his late 60s peers out. His hair is silver, his eyes steady. Evelyn Hart. She nods. Mr. Trent. He opens the door wider. Come in. Inside. The apartment smells faintly of cedar and ink. There are stacks of old files and a framed photograph of her father on the shelf. She freezes when she sees it. I used to manage your father's personal affairs, Mr. Trent says, before the board took over, before Charles Quinn convinced everyone he was the one keeping the company afloat. Evelyn sits down slowly. He said the same thing to me today. Trent sighs. He would? Your father saw the danger in him years ago. That's why he left instructions secret ones. He knew greed would find its way into the family. He opens a metal drawer and places a small, leather-bound folder on the table. Inside are papers, signatures, share allocations, and a notarized document dated 6 years ago. This, he says quietly, is the original deed of ownership for Hartson Group. It lists you as the sole heir and majority shareholder. The version your uncle filed after your father's death is falsified. Evelyn stares at the papers. The world blurs for a second. He rewrote the company documents. Trent nods. And your husband helped him. Your father's death left an opening. They filled it with ambition. Her throat tightens. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Because they would have buried me too. But now, he looks at her with something like pride. Now I think you're ready to finish what your father started. Evelyn takes a deep breath. I don't even know where to begin. Trent opens another folder. You start by knowing who's been stealing from you. This is Ryan's record of fund transfers. I've been tracking the company accounts for months. He's been moving assets into a shell corporation under the name Blake Price Holdings. Evelyn's stomach twists. Price. Monica Price. Trent nods. Exactly. She leans back, staring at the ceiling. The dots connect themselves now, painfully clean. The company, the money, the affair, all the same thread. Does Uncle Charles know? He's the one who taught Ryan how to hide it. Evelyn feels her pulse in her fingertips. Then they're both in this together. Yes, but they don't know you know. The silence between them grows heavier. Trent slides a final envelope across the table. This contains your father's will, the original one. It names you as both heir and executor. You'll need proof of authenticity before a court. And for that, you'll need help. Who can I trust? She asks. He smiles faintly. Ethan Ward. He worked under me for years. Brilliant mind. Clean record. I'll tell him you'll reach out. Evelyn closes the folder carefully, like it might shatter. Why me? Why trust me with all this? Because your father did, Trent says. And because, Evelyn, I think you're braver than you believe. When she leaves his apartment, the air feels sharper. The night wind cuts through her coat. But she doesn't care. For the first time in months, She's walking towards something instead of away from it. At home, the lights are off. Ryan's car isn't in the driveway. She doesn't bother calling him. She goes straight to her study and locks the door. On her desk are old photographs her parents at the company's first opening. Her father holding her as a child, smiling like he believed the world would never turn cruel. She lays the folder beside them. Her father's signature glows faintly under the lamp. She whispers, "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" The papers don't answer, but the silence feels less lonely tonight. She calls Ethan Ward the next morning. His voice is careful, cautious. "Mr. Trent told me you might reach out. He said it was urgent." "It is," Evelyn replies. "I think my husband and my uncle are embezzling from the company, and I think my father's will was forged." There's a pause. "You have proof I do, but I can't let them know I do." Ethan exhales. "Then we'll need to move quietly. Send me scans of the documents. I'll verify the notary signatures. If the originals match the public records, we can expose them without alerting the board." She sends the files within the hour. The rest of the day crawls by. Ryan calls in the afternoon, his voice light, careless. "Hey, you okay? You sound tired lately." "I'm fine." She lies. "Just a lot of work. I'll be home late." He says, "Don't wait up." She smiles to herself. "I won't." That night, she opens her laptop and watches the company's internal financial portal. Ethan had given her temporary access to a private audit system. It shows transaction histories, hundreds of small withdrawals, all leading to one account, Blake Price Holdings. She copies everything to an encrypted drive, every transfer, every falsified invoice, every date that lines up with Ryan's business trips. By midnight, she's exhausted, but there's a quiet satisfaction in her chest. The fear that once lived in her bones has turned into focus. She hears the front door open. Ryan's footsteps move down the hallway. He doesn't come to the study. He never does anymore. His laughter fills the phone in his hand. Monica's name glowing faintly on the screen. Evelyn closes her laptop. She sits in the dark, listening to his voice drift through the walls. Each word is a betrayal, but tonight, she feels detached, almost analytical. She whispers to herself, "Keep talking, Ryan." Every word is evidence. The next morning, Ethan calls back. "I checked everything. The notary signature on your father's will was forged. The real document predates the company's restructuring. Your uncle replaced the pages before filing it with the state. We can prove it." Evelyn closes her eyes. "Then I can take back what's mine." "Yes, but be careful. If they find out, they'll move fast. And desperate men are dangerous." She looks out the window. where the rain has begun again. I'm not afraid of desperate men anymore. That afternoon, she drives to the family mansion where Charles still keeps his office. He greets her with exaggerated warmth, all smiles and nostalgia. Evelyn, to what do I owe the pleasure? She sets a folder on his desk, just revisiting some of Dad's old records. He glances at it briefly, then leans back in his chair. You've always been sentimental. She smiles faintly. I guess I take after him for a moment. Their eyes lock. There's something almost theatrical in his calmness. She wonders if he rehearsed it in the mirror. As she leaves, she catches her reflection in the glass door steady, expressionless. She doesn't look like the woman who used to cry over unanswered questions. She looks like someone who finally found one. Behind her, Charles's voice follows, light and casual. Be careful digging up the past. Evie, sometimes it bites. She doesn't turn around, only if you buried something worth biting for. When she steps outside, the sky opens up, rain falling hard and cold. She doesn't run for cover. Some storms, she thinks, are meant to be walked through, and this one she plans to survive. 3 days later, Evelyn wakes before sunrise. The house is still. The only sound is the faint hum of the refrigerator and the wind tapping against the window. She lies there for a while, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the morning she spent making breakfast for a man who was already planning her downfall. There's a numbness now, but also something sharper, underneath a clarity that cuts clean. She pours coffee, sits by the kitchen counter, and opens her laptop. Ethan has sent her an encrypted message. The audit is ready. I've traced every transaction Ryan made in the last 8 months. He's been withdrawing funds from the Hartson account and redirecting them through a company called Black Ridge Consulting, owned by your uncle. From there, the money goes to a personal investment fund under Monica Price's name. Evelyn reads it twice. She feels no shock, no anger, just confirmation. The truth is an old wound finally given a name. She types back, "It's time we collect proof in person." Ethan replies immediately, "Meet me tonight. I've arranged access to the secondary office at Hartson HQ. No security after 9. Evelyn closes her laptop and exhales slowly. By evening, she's walking through the quiet corridors of the Hartson building. The floor lights hum beneath her shoes. Every step echoes with memory. Her father's voice, her mother's laughter, her own younger self believing this place would one day be her inheritance. Now it feels like walking through a body infected with deceit. Ethan waits near the archive room, holding a small flash drive and a key card. His face is calm, but his eyes flicker with urgency. Everything's on the executive server, he says. Charles keeps backup ledgers there, hidden under a decoy file. I'll extract the encrypted copies. You just keep an eye out. Evelyn nods. Let's finish this. For the next hour, the two of them work in silence. Screens flicker, folders open. Every document feels like a betrayal on paper wire transfers. False invoices, forged authorizations, signatures Ryan must have practiced 100 times until his hand learned her father's handwriting. At 10:26, Ethan whispers, "Got it." He unplugs the drive. Everything's here. This is enough to prove theft, fraud, and conspiracy. Evelyn looks at the folder on the screen. Charles Quinn's name next to Ryan Blake's electronic signature. She feels the weight of their arrogance. They thought she would never notice. "Send copies to my private account," she says, "and one to Mr. Trent, in case anything happens." Ethan nods. Done. They leave separately. When she steps into the night air, rain is falling again. She tilts her face up to it, lets it wash across her skin. It's cold, sharp, almost purifying. For the first time, she feels something close to peace. The next day, Charles calls her to his office unexpectedly. "Evelyn, I was just about to reach out," he says, his voice all honey. "We've got a potential investor from Boston, but we'll need your signature to finalize the new subsidiary. Simple paperwork, nothing serious." She sits across from him, feigning ease. "A new subsidiary. What's it called? Black Ridge Consulting." The name lands like a bullet wrapped in silk. She smiles softly. "Sounds impressive. What do they do?" "Oh, it's mostly advisory work, outsourced research, tax planning. Ryan recommended them. Actually, smart man. Your husband?" Evelyn meets his gaze. "Yes, very smart." Charles slides the folder toward her. "Just here and here." She looks down. The document is short, too short. No legal clarity, no oversight clauses, no balance sheets. It's a funnel, one signature away from draining her inheritance. She picks up the pen, then pauses. "Uncle Charles, do you ever miss my father?" The question startles him. "Of course. He was a good man." "Then maybe you should have remembered that before stealing from him." The pen drops. The words hang between them like smoke. Charles freezes. "What did you say?" Evelyn leans back, calm. "I know everything. The shell companies, the falsified signatures, Ryan's involvement. I've seen the documents." He exhales through his nose. a small, dangerous smile forming. Be careful what you think you know, Evie. Those kinds of accusations can ruin a family. She tilts her head. I'm not trying to ruin a family. I'm saving one from you. His voice hardens. You have no proof. Not true. I have everything. And I have a lawyer who's already preparing to file for an audit. I suggest you start preparing your statement for the first time. She sees fear flicker across his face. Not much, but enough. Then he laughs cold, deliberate. You're just like your father, too sentimental to survive in this world. Don't think you can play this game without losing something. Evelyn stands. I already lost everything that mattered. Now I'm just collecting the rest. She walks out, her heartbeat steady, her mind clear. That night, Ryan comes home earlier than usual. He's cheerful, even playful, the way guilty men become when they sense the storm approaching. Hey, he says, kissing her cheek. I booked a weekend getaway for us. Thought we could use a reset. Fresh air, ocean view, no phones. She studies his face. His eyes look the same as the day she married him. Warm, steady, trustworthy. It's strange how love and deception can share the same expression. Sure, she says softly. That sounds perfect. He smiles, relieved. Great. I'll handle everything. You just relax for once. After dinner, he showers. Evelyn waits until the water runs, then takes his phone from the counter. It's locked. But she's watched his fingers too many times not to know the code. Inside, dozens of messages from Monica. She scrolls through them slowly, each one a dagger dressed as desire. He's so clueless, isn't he? I can't wait until we don't have to hide. Did you move the last transfer? Quinn said it needs to clear before Friday. Evelyn stops there. Friday. The same day Charles mentioned the investor. It's the day they plan to drain the rest of the company. She scrolls further photos, voice notes, even a recorded message. She presses play. Ryan's voice fills the room. Don't worry, babe. She won't notice. She's too trusting. Once this last deal goes through, we're gone. The house, the car, the accounts, everything. By the time she figures it out, she'll have nothing left. Evelyn's hands tremble, but she doesn't cry. The time for tears ended long ago. She copies the files to her laptop, sends them to Ethan with one line. Final proof. They move Friday. Ethan responds instantly. Then Thursday night, we move first. Friday morning, Ryan wakes to an empty house. No breakfast, no note. He calls her twice, no answer. At 900 am, federal auditors arrive at Harts and Group's headquarters with a court order. Charles Quinn is escorted from his office. Ryan's name appears on every transaction report. By noon, the news hits the press. Harts and Group under investigation for financial fraud. CEO and CFO implicated in embezzlement scheme. Ryan drives home in a panic. The driveway is empty. Evelyn's car is gone. Inside, the house feels stripped of warmth. On the kitchen table, there's a single envelope, his name, written in her handwriting. He opens it. Inside, one line: "You built this life on lies. Ryan, I'm just giving it back to you." He sinks into a chair, the sound of his own breathing loud in the silence. Outside, rain begins again, relentless, cleansing, final, and somewhere across the city, Evelyn sits in her car, watching the world blur through the windshield. She doesn't feel victorious. She feels hollow, but free, for the first time in years. She's not pretending. She whispers to herself, almost like a prayer. He took my peace, but not my truth, and that's enough. By the time the news spreads through Portland, the name Harts and Group is no longer a symbol of legacy. It's a headline, the kind written in bold letters, followed by words like fraud, embezzlement, and betrayal. The city's business forums light up with speculation. Some call it a scandal. Others call it karma. Evelyn doesn't call it anything. She just watches the rain slide down her office window, letting the noise of it fill the empty spaces inside her. Mr., Trent, and Ethan handle most of the press inquiries. They know she's not ready to speak, not to the world, and not to the ghosts that still live in her name. Charles Quinn is the first to strike back. Within 48 hours, he files a counterclaim, accusing Evelyn of fraudulent interference and defamation. His lawyer goes on record saying she forged evidence, manipulated finances, and used her father's death as leverage for sympathy. It's the oldest strategy in the book: turn the victim into the villain. But Evelyn expected it. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't respond publicly. Instead, she and Ethan keep building their case quietly, methodically, piece by piece. Then comes the real shock. Monica Price goes silent. Her social media accounts vanish overnight. The apartment she shared with Ryan is cleared out. The neighbors say a moving truck came at dawn. By noon, she was gone. Ryan calls her 20 times that day. No answer. He leaves voicemails that start angry and end desperate. "Monica, call me back. We can fix this. You promised me." He stops himself mid-sentence, voice cracking. When she doesn't respond, He does what desperate men always do. He comes home. Evelyn hears his car before she sees him. Tires screeching against wet pavement. He bursts through the front door, hair disheveled, eyes frantic. "What did you do?" he demands. Evelyn stays calm. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play innocent with me. Evelyn, Monica's gone. Everything's gone. My accounts are frozen. The company's seized. You destroyed me." She studies him. This is not the man she married, not even the man who betrayed her. This is something smaller, a man stripped of his armor, left with nothing but the fear of facing himself. "I didn't destroy you, Ryan," she says quietly. "You did that all on your own." He laughs bitterly. "You think you're some kind of hero now? You think anyone's going to believe you didn't know you were part of it? Your signature's on every document, forged." She replies, "Ethan verified every one of them, and we have the metadata to prove when and where they were edited. The court will too." His voice drops to a growl. "You think they'll care? You think the world gives a damn about your truth? You're just another woman with a sob story and a lawyer. I'll make sure no one listens." Evelyn steps closer, her voice almost a whisper. "You can try, but you've already lost the one thing that mattered: control." For a long moment, they just stand there, two strangers in a house built on lies. Then Ryan turns, slamming the door behind him. Outside, his car roars away, tail lights vanishing into the rain. The following week feels like a blur. Reporters camp outside her gate. Her father's old colleagues send messages, some supportive, some cautious. The board of trustees schedules an emergency meeting. Evelyn attends it alone. Charles is there too, surrounded by lawyers. His face is pale, but his confidence is rehearsed. He speaks first. "Miss Hart, your accusations are defamatory and baseless. Your so-called evidence was obtained illegally, which makes it inadmissible in court. You've humiliated this company, your father's legacy, and our family." Evelyn waits until he's finished. Then she opens a folder and slides it across the table. "This is the chain of transactions linking your shell company to Blake Price Holdings. The digital trail includes your access logs and your signature. And this," she places another paper on top, "is the court's confirmation of my father's original will. The one you replaced." The room goes still. Someone whispers, "Oh my God." Charles's smile flickers, but he holds it. "You don't scare me. I don't need to." Evelyn replies, "You've already done the damage yourself." The chairman clears his throat. "Until these matters are resolved, Charles, your authority within the board is suspended effective immediately." Charles leans back, jaw tight. "This isn't over." Evelyn stands. It never is, with men like you. 2 nights later, she receives a call from Ethan. His voice is tense. Evelyn, you need to be careful. I think they're digging into your private life, trying to discredit you before the trial. I figured they would. She says, I'm serious. He insists. Someone's leaking details to the press. Old therapy records, personal history, your father's hospital files. They're trying to make you look unstable. Evelyn closes her eyes. The familiar weight returns, not fear, but exhaustion. Then we tell the truth before they twist it. She records a public statement the next morning. Her voice is steady, her eyes clear. My name is Evelyn Hart. She begins. I've made mistakes trusting the wrong people, believing in love that wasn't real. But theft and deceit were never among those mistakes. What's happening isn't just about money. It's about power, manipulation, and the silence women are expected to keep. I won't be silent anymore. By evening, the clip has spread across the country. It isn't loud or dramatic. It's calm, human, and real. That's why it hits harder. Messages flood in, some hateful, most supportive. Strangers thank her for speaking. Others share their own stories, betrayal, courage, survival. Evelyn doesn't reply to any of them. She just reads and listens, her heart heavy but awake. Across town, Ryan sits in a dim motel room, surrounded by half-empty bottles and unpaid bills. His phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. Monica. His breath catches. He opens it. Don't contact me again. I told you not to trust Charles. They're using you. The money's gone. Move on. He reads it over and over. The words blur. He realizes, finally, that the empire he built was a mirage, and that Monica was never standing beside him, only behind him, waiting for the fall. For the first time in years, Ryan Blake feels small, and it terrifies him. Meanwhile, Charles meets with a man in a dark sedan parked near the courthouse. She's stronger than I thought, he mutters. We'll need something bigger, something to make her crumble. The man hands him a sealed envelope, then give her what she fears most. Charles looks inside. Photos. Evelyn with Ethan laughing outside a cafe, standing close near the company steps. He smirks. Perfect. The next morning. The tabloids run with it. Evelyn Hart's secret affair with employee. Scandal behind the scandal. By noon, reporters swarm again. Ethan calls, voice sharp. They're trying to make it look romantic, to destroy your credibility. I know, she says. Let them. What if they're digging this deep? It means they're running out of weapons. Lies always reach exhaustion before truth does. Still, the attacks sting. She hides in her apartment for 3 days, avoiding cameras, avoiding people. Then one night, she gets a message from Trent. Check your email. You'll want to see this. It's an audio file, a recording from a private investigator who had been monitoring Charles for months. In it, his voice is unmistakable, sharp with anger. She won't survive this. Leak whatever you have. I want her name ruined before the hearing. She'll learn that no woman humiliates me and walks away. The recording is dated 2 days before the tabloids broke the story. Evelyn forwards it to her lawyer. Within hours, the narrative shifts again. News anchors now say audio evidence suggests attempted defamation by former board member. The tides turn quietly, but they turn. Evelyn stands by her window that night, watching the city lights flicker below. For the first time, she allows herself a small smile. Betrayal, she thinks, is a game only fools believe they can win, and the fools have just lost. The air feels different now, thicker, heavier, like the city itself knows that something ugly has been pulled into the light. It's been 2 weeks since Evelyn's public statement. 2 weeks since the audio of Charles Quinn's threat leaked and set the news cycle on fire. Reporters are calling it the fall of Hartson, a drama about greed, betrayal, and a woman's quiet vengeance. But for Evelyn, there's nothing cinematic about it. The attention feels like exposure, like walking naked through the wreckage of her old life. At night, she still wakes to the sound of footsteps that aren't there. Sometimes she swears she hears her father's voice in the dark. Trust is a choice, not a gift. She's trying to remember what it feels like to choose anything without fear. The trial date is set. The evidence is overwhelming: forged documents, offshore transfers, and the audio confirming Charles's attempt to destroy her credibility. His lawyers fight like cornered wolves, but every motion they file is denied. The court freezes his accounts and orders an independent audit. Ryan, meanwhile, has vanished from public sight. His name is still attached to several of the shell corporations, but he's gone no credit card usage, no car rentals, no trace. Ethan calls one morning, concern in his voice. You think he's running? Evelyn looks out the window at the gray Portland sky. He's cornered. Men like Ryan don't run, they implode. She's not wrong. That same afternoon, a detective named Moore comes to her office. His expression is grim. Mrs. Hart. We found something at a cabin registered under Ryan Blake's name. He slides a photo across the desk. Inside the image, a shattered glass coffee table, a bloodstain on the rug. and Ryan's watch lying beside an open bottle of whiskey. No body, Moore says. But there was a note. Evelyn's stomach knots. What did it say? He reads from his notebook. They all got what they wanted. Now they can have what's left. Evelyn stares at the words. There's no emotion, no plea for forgiveness, just bitterness, cold and precise. The way Ryan always spoke when he wanted to hurt someone. Moore watches her carefully. Do you think he might hurt himself? She shakes her head slowly. No. Ryan's too proud to die before the world apologizes to him. The detective closes his notebook. Then we'll treat him as missing. For now, when he leaves. Evelyn sits for a long time without moving. She wants to feel relief, but she can't, because something about this doesn't fit. Ryan was a coward, but not careless. A fake suicide, a staged disappearance. Every possibility tightens around her chest. She picks up her phone and calls Ethan. Find out who else had access to that cabin. Check the property records. He doesn't ask why. He just says, on it. That night, the power goes out. It's just after 11. Evelyn's been reading through court papers by candlelight when the house plunges into darkness. She tells herself it's just the storm rain hissing against the glass. Thunder low and steady in the distance. But then she hears it, a door creaking somewhere downstairs. Her pulse spikes. She grabs her phone and switches on the flashlight. The beam cuts through the dark like a trembling blade. Ryan, she calls. Voice low. No answer. She moves down the hallway. The floorboards moaning under her bare feet. The front door is still locked. The sound came from the kitchen. Her father's old revolver is in the top drawer of the console, a gift he gave her when she first inherited the company. For protection, he'd said, half joking. She never thought she'd need it. Her hand trembles as she opens the drawer. The gun is still there, cold and heavy. She walks toward the kitchen. The shadows stretch long and crooked across the floor. Then a whisper. Not words, just breath. Evelyn. The light catches a figure standing by the back door. Ryan. His face is pale, unshaven, his shirt soaked from the rain. There's a cut on his forehead, half healed, and a wildness in his eyes she's never seen before. Jesus, she breathes. Ryan, what did you do? He laughs softly, a sound with no humor in it. Do I survived? Isn't that what you wanted? You disappeared for 2 weeks. Had to. You and your little army of lawyers took everything. The company, the money, the house, all gone. I needed time to think. She steadies her voice. And what did you decide that maybe you were never the victim you pretended to be? He steps closer. You always needed to be the good one. the fragile, broken one people felt sorry for. But you were just like the rest of us. You wanted control. You just found a prettier word for it, justice. Stay where you are, she says, lifting the gun slightly. He stops. You wouldn't shoot me. Don't test that theory. He steals, slow and venomous. You really think you won? Charles told me everything. You think you exposed us. You just triggered the clause in your father's will. The board can dissolve your ownership until the investigation's done. You'll lose it all again. Her heart skips. What clause? The one your dear old dad put in to protect the company from emotional heirs? Congratulations. Evelyn, you're the chaos he warned about. She shakes her head. You're lying. He laughs again. And my thunder rolls outside, drowning the silence for a moment. When it fades, there's only the sound of her breathing shallow. Quick. He takes another step. You ruined me, Evie. So here's the deal. You call your lawyer, you retract your statement, and maybe, just maybe, I disappear for real this time. Her finger tightens on the trigger. You're sick, she says quietly. You used my father, my name, my trust, and now you want me to save you again? I want you to remember who made you strong. He says, you only became this cold because I broke you first. For a moment, she almost can't tell if he's right, because there's a small, twisted truth in his words. Pain did change her, but not the way he thinks. She steadies the gun. You didn't make me strong. Ryan, you just taught me how to stop apologizing for surviving. His eyes narrow. You won't do it. He lunges forward. The gun goes off. The sound tears through the night, sharp and final. Ryan collapses to the floor, clutching his shoulder. The blood spreads fast across his shirt, dark and blooming. Evelyn drops the gun, hands shaking. Oh my God. He groans, voice thick. You actually did it. Stay down. I'm calling an ambulance. He laughs weakly. You think this saves you? Maybe not, she says, but it ends you. By the time the police arrive, Ryan is unconscious but alive. They take her statement, photograph everything, and carry him out on a stretcher. Detective Moore gives her a long look. It was self-defense. The cameras will prove it, but it's not over. Mrs. Hart. When people like him fall, they don't fall alone. She nods, numb. I know. When the door closes and the sirens fade, Evelyn sits on the floor, staring at the faint streak of blood across the tiles. It looks like a line dividing two lives before and after. She whispers to herself, voice breaking. Maybe this is the price of truth. Outside, The rain keeps falling, and somewhere far away, the last remnants of the old world, the lies, the greed, the names she once loved finally begin to wash away. Morning comes gray and unkind. The rain has stopped, but the air feels soaked with everything that can't be undone. Police tape still flutters at the edge of Evelyn's driveway, pale yellow against the bruised sky. Inside the house, the scent of gunpowder lingers faintly, clinging to her skin, to the walls, to her memory. She hasn't slept. Every time she closes her eyes, she hears the gun go off again, the sharp sound, the echo, the way Ryan fell it replays on a loop, as if her mind refuses to believe it already happened. The phone rings. Detective Moore's voice is steady but distant. Ryan's stable. The bullet missed any major arteries. He's in custody at St. Helene's under police watch. Evelyn exhales slowly. Relief isn't the right word. It's something heavier. Survival mixed with shame. Will there be charges, she asks? Not against you. Everything lines up self-defense. His fingerprints are on the back door. Your security camera caught him forcing it open. You're clear. Legally. She repeats softly. That's different from being okay. Moore hesitates. Ma'am, you did what you had to do. When the call ends, she sits in silence. The clock ticks in the hallway, an old sound that once meant routine, now counting the seconds of an unfamiliar life. The trial begins 2 weeks later, not for her, but for them. Charles Quinn and Ryan Blake, co-defendants in what the press calls the Hartson conspiracy. The courtroom is cold and bright. Evelyn sits behind her lawyers, her expression unreadable, her hands clasped in her lap. Charles is thinner now, his hair grayer, his confidence replaced by irritation. Ryan, in contrast, wears bandages beneath his suit and stares straight ahead, jaw tight. When the judge enters, the room stands. It feels less like justice and more like anatomy, every heart in the room tightening in unison. The prosecution lays out everything the falsified will, the shell companies, the transfers, the audio recordings. Piece by piece, the web unravels in public view. When Ethan testifies, his voice never shakes. I personally verified the documents showing that company funds were redirected to accounts managed by Mr. Quinn and Mr. Blake. Mrs. Hart had no involvement. Charles's lawyer objects. The judge overrules. Then it's Evelyn's turn. She steps into the witness box, breath steady but shallow. Mrs. Hart. The prosecutor begins. Did you have any knowledge of these transactions before you met with Mr. Trent? No, she says. I trusted my husband and my uncle. I believed them when they said the company was thriving. And when did you realize that wasn't true? The night I found 2 phones in my husband's drawer. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Evelyn continues, voice calm. After that, I found evidence of the shell company. Then I learned that my father's will had been forged. They didn't just steal from me. They stole my family's name, my sense of safety, everything I thought was solid. Mrs. Hart. The lawyer asks gently, how did you feel when you discovered your husband's betrayal? She looks at Ryan. His eyes are flat, unrepentant. I didn't feel anything, not at first. Pain came later. It always does. The prosecutor nods. No further questions. When she steps down, Ryan's attorney leans close to whisper something in his ear. Ryan glances back at her briefly, a faint smirk ghosting across his lips. One last attempt to remind her that she'll never be free of him entirely. She meets his gaze with silence. There's nothing left to say. The verdict comes 3 days later. The courtroom feels smaller, the air heavier, guilty. Charles Quinn wire fraud, conspiracy, obstruction, Ryan Blake embezzlement, forgery, attempted extortion. The judge sentences Charles to 12 years in federal prison. Ryan gets 9. Evelyn sits still while the reporters erupt, their voices chasing sound bites. Mrs. Hart, how does it feel to win? Do you believe justice was served? Do you plan to rebuild Hearts and Group? She answers none of them, because victory doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like fatigue, like a war you survived but no longer recognized the world you fought for. Outside the courthouse, the sky is pale blue, the kind of color that promises change but never explains what kind. She stands on the steps, breathing in the cool air, letting the noise fade behind her. Ethan joins her, his tie loosened, his expression careful. It's over, he says. No, she replies quietly. It's just quieter. They walk together down the marble steps. For a moment, neither speaks. Then Ethan says, you did what no one else could. You faced them. You didn't flinch. She smiles faintly. I flinched. I just didn't let it show. He looks at her, something soft in his gaze. What will you do? Now Evelyn glances across the street, where reporters wait behind barricades, microphones pointed like weapons. Beyond them, the city hums indifferently. Life goes on, even after ruin. I think I'll disappear for a while, she says, someplace quiet, Maybe the coast. My father used to say the ocean doesn't judge, it just listens. Ethan nods. If you need help, I know, she says. But I think I need to learn how to stand still again, without fear. He doesn't argue. They shake hands like allies who've shared too much truth to ever be strangers again. Weeks later, Evelyn moves into a small house by the sea. The Hartson estate is gone, sold to pay legal costs and debts left behind by the men who nearly destroyed it. But she doesn't mourn it. She's learned that some legacies are worth letting die. Her mornings are simple coffee, quiet, the sound of waves hitting the shore. She spends her afternoons writing letters she'll never send to her father, to Ryan, sometimes even to the version of herself she used to be. She keeps one of the letters on her desk, unfinished. It begins, "I thought the truth would feel lighter than lies. I was wrong. The truth has its own weight. It just doesn't rot." Every few days, she drives into town for groceries. People recognize her now. Some nod respectfully. Others whisper. She's not sure which hurts more, the sympathy or the curiosity. At night, she walks along the beach barefoot, listening to the rhythm of the water. For the first time, the silence doesn't scare her. It feels like a language she's finally learned to understand. One evening, as the sun bleeds into the horizon, her phone buzzes with a number she doesn't know. She almost ignores it, then answers, "Mrs. Hart." The voice is cautious. "Yes, this is Detective Moore. Sorry to bother you. We received a report from the prison hospital. Ryan Blake attempted suicide last night." Evelyn freezes. "Is he?" "He's alive. Stable. He left a statement for you. Would you like me to forward it?" After a pause, she says, "No, I already know what it says." She hangs up and stands there, staring at the water. The tide is rising, washing away footprints she doesn't remember making for a long time. She watches the waves break and mend themselves again and again. There's something sacred in that repetition destruction that leads back to calm. Maybe forgiveness is like that too. Not a gift, not a weakness, but a cycle, breaking, healing, breaking again. She whispers to the sea, "You can rest now." And for the first time in years, she believes it. The sea has a memory. It keeps everything salt, secrets, grief. Some days it looks calm, but Evelyn knows better now. Stillness doesn't mean peace. Sometimes it just means the storm has learned to sit quietly inside you. It's been 6 months since the verdict. The world has moved on. The newspapers stopped printing her name. The reporters found new scandals to feed on. But every morning, the mail still arrives in letters from strangers. Some thank her for her courage. Some call her a liar. Most of them end the same way: you must feel free now. But freedom, she's learning, isn't loud. It's not champagne on courthouse steps or applause from strangers who will forget your story in a week. Freedom is smaller. It's the absence of fear when you wake up. The ability to take a deep breath without rehearsing an apology. She's still learning how to do both. The cottage by the ocean has become her sanctuary. It's quiet, except for the wind and the gulls and the endless conversation between tide and shore. She keeps the windows open at night, lets the sound of waves replace the memories that used to haunt her. There's a small garden out back, half wild. She tends to it every morning, pulling weeds, planting new things. It feels like a metaphor she doesn't have to name. Sometimes she visits Mr. Trent at his apartment in the city. His health is failing, but his mind is sharp. He calls her kiddo, the same way her father once did. You did it, he tells her one afternoon. You brought the truth home. Evelyn smiles faintly, and yet it still doesn't feel like home. He nods. It won't. Not yet. Justice isn't a place. Evelyn, it's a direction. She sits with him for a while, watching the light shift across the room. There's a comfort in being with someone who understands that victory can be as lonely as loss. When she leaves, he presses something into her hand, a worn key with a tag that reads, Hearts in Office, Storage 3. Your father's personal files, he says. I never had the heart to go through them. That night, Evelyn drives back into the city. The storage room is cold and smells of dust and paper. She unlocks a cabinet and finds boxes of handwritten notes, sketches, even old cassette tapes. She picks one up, her father's handwriting. For Evelyn, if you ever forget who you are. She finds an old player on the shelf, slides the tape in, and presses play. Her father's voice fills the room, warm, steady, familiar in a way that shatters her. Sweetheart, if you're hearing this, I'm probably not around anymore. That's life. But if this world ever tries to take something from you, your peace, your truth, your name, don't fight to get it back. Fight to understand why they wanted it in the first place. The people who try to silence you are afraid of what you might say. Don't let that fear become yours. The tape clicks off. Evelyn sits there for a long time, hands over her face, crying without sound. Later, she takes the tape home and places it on her desk beside the unfinished letter she's been writing for months. She reads over the last line. The truth has its own weight, it just doesn't rot. And beneath it, she writes, but it also doesn't rest until you forgive yourself. Then she folds the letter neatly and burns it in a bowl. watching the edges curl into ash. The following week, she drives inland to a rehabilitation center where victims of financial and domestic abuse receive counseling. It's funded quietly by her. She named it the Hart Foundation, after her parents, but also after something more intimate, Hart, the part of her that refused to die. She volunteers sometimes. She doesn't tell the women who she is, but some of them recognize her anyway. One afternoon, a young woman lingers after a session. "You're her, aren't you?" the woman asks softly. "The one from the case?" Evelyn hesitates, then nods. The woman swallows. "I just wanted to say thank you. I left my husband last month because of your interview. I figured if you could survive that, maybe I could survive too." Evelyn feels something tighten in her throat. "You did the hardest part," she says. "You believed yourself." When the woman leaves, Evelyn stands by the window for a long time, watching the light fall through the glass. Maybe this is what healing looks like, not the absence of pain, but its transformation into something that helps someone else breathe. One evening, she receives a letter from the state correctional facility. The handwriting is unmistakable. Ryan's. She doesn't open it immediately. She leaves it on the table for days, like an unwanted guest she isn't ready to face. When she finally reads it, it's shorter than she expected. "Evelyn, I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe because silence in here feels louder than anything I ever said to you. I won't ask for forgiveness. I wouldn't know what to do with it if you gave it. But I want you to know you were right. You always were. Ryan." She folds the letter and places it inside a drawer, not out of forgiveness, but acceptance. Some stories end quietly, not with closure, just a kind of peace that doesn't need explanation. The next morning, she wakes early, walks barefoot to the beach. The horizon is a thin line of gold, the water still dark. The wind smells like salt and new beginnings. She watches the tide move in slow rhythm, each wave breaking and retreating, like the world breathing. For the first time, she says his name out loud, not with hate, not with longing, but as part of the story that built her. Ryan. It doesn't hurt. Then she says her father's name, Robert. That one still stings, but softly, like a healed scar remembering its purpose. She whispers to the ocean, "It's done." The waves pull the words away, carrying them somewhere beyond the line of sight. She stands there until the water touches her feet, cold and grounding. There is no audience, no verdict, no redemption arc waiting for applause. There is only this, a woman standing in the aftermath of her own becoming. For years, Evelyn thought forgiveness meant absolution. Now she understands it's simply freedom, the right to stop carrying what was never hers to hold. She turns toward the cottage, the morning light spilling across her face. In the quiet, she almost hears her father again. "You're not unforgiven, Evelyn. You're just finally free." And she smiles, small, real, unshakable. The sea keeps moving, endless and alive. The last quiet isn't silence at all. It's peace. Sometimes the end of a story isn't justice. It's peace, the kind that arrives after the storm. When you finally stop running from your own reflection. If this story found you tonight, maybe it's because some part of you is ready to let go, too. This was Unforgiven, a story about pain, truth, and the quiet kind of freedom that comes after everything else is gone. If you believe in stories that heal, that hurt, and that remind us we're still human, stay a while and subscribe to Calm Mind Journal, because some nights, peace begins with a voice that understands.